So let's have a look at the incredible pronation Taylor Fritz uses during his serve. Now, this video is courtesy of 12KGP Tennis on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to their awesome channel. I've put their link in the description below. All right, I actually used this video a few days ago to talk about strategy, and someone in the comment section was talking about both of them. He was talking about both Kruger and Taylor Fritz, saying that they aren't pronating when serving. So I wanted to actually make this video to clarify some things. And both of these players pronate a ton. And Taylor Fritz pronates some of the most I've seen on tour by any player. So first off, what is pronation? So pronation is where your racket is positioned prior to hitting the ball, where the strings are facing off to the side. So it kind of looks like he's going to use the edge of the racket like an axe, and the ball is an apple, and he's just going to chop the apple in half. But that's not what he does, even though it looks like that in this position. The counter to this would be if his racket were in the waiter's tray and his strings are facing straight up. He's not. His racket is on its edge, strings facing to the side. Now, as he approaches the ball, he begins rotating, which is called pronating, and he is now rotating so that he continues to rotate, and now his strings are actually facing off to the right. So there's about 180 degrees, give or take, many degrees, but give or take about 180 degrees difference in where the strings are pointing from this position prior to contact to this position after contact. So that is what pronation is. Now, why do you want to pronate? This movement is the fastest way to deliver the racket through contact. You see baseball pitchers do this when they throw a baseball. American football quarterbacks throwing a football make this move. Pronation is completely natural, and it's actually the best way anatomically to move an object, whether it's hitting a serve with a racket in your hand or throwing a ball, with a baseball or a football. So here in a little more detail is how he's able to pronate now and hit a side spin serve. Because when you watch him serve, he hits this ball and the ball does this. Watch the ball go out wide, and he actually hits a side spin serve out wide. Now, players get confused because they go, wait a minute, how can you turn your racket from facing left to facing right, yet get the ball to curve from right to left? It makes no sense. Players feel like they need to wrap their racket around the right side of the ball, which would actually be to supinate as you hit the ball. When you hit a slice serve, you will not and you will never curl around the right side of the ball like this. You're not curling around the ball. But what you are doing is actually pronating as you do this. So let's talk three main ideas here. The first one is where his strings are facing at contact. When he is hitting this ball, we know where his strings are pointing at contact. They are pointing at contact where the ball goes, basically, right? So he hits the ball and the ball lands there. If you see where the ball lands, it lands in the out wide service box area. So that means when he's striking the ball, which we don't actually see contact, just because of the frame rate. So this is after contact. We can see where the ball is right now, and then the ball is moved. So he's already hit the ball. But the ball tells us where his strings are pointing. Now, we know where his strings are pointing. Now we have to know where his racket is traveling. So let's look prior to contact and then after contact. Look how his racket is traveling basically toward this WTA sign on the back fence. Look at his racket travel to the right. I tell my students, when you're working on a continental grip for the first time and you're working on slice and for the first time, don't in your mind aim for the service box. But as a right-hander, aim to the right of the service box. The racket with a continental grip, which is one of the reasons you want a continental grip, as a right-hander, it points the strings left. So you can feel confident swinging to the right and the ball will go left. Now, why do you want to swing to the right? Because as a right-hander, because that's how you impart spin. Spin is created when your racket travels in one direction and your strings point in a different direction at contact. That imparts spin, it hits the ball off kilter, and the ball rotates. Now, the last thing I want to mention is this rotation that he is making with his racket. Strings facing off to the left, strings facing off to the right. The reason this doesn't mess up the ball and like screw the ball up and the ball doesn't know where you want it to go is because this rotation and the racket angle does not change while he's touching the ball. So the ball is only on the strings for 0.004 seconds, 4 milliseconds, 400ths of a second. That's not enough time for the ball to touch your strings, and then you rotate the racket while the ball is touching your strings, and then the ball kind of like shoots over here. Like, that's not going to happen. The moment the ball touches your strings, it leaves your strings, and the racket angle has not changed. That's the key to this. When you are rotating your racket, at contact, the ball only knows a couple things. It knows where your strings are pointing at contact. It knows the direction your racket is traveling at contact. And it also knows the speed at which you are swinging. Pronation is going to allow your racket to travel so much faster rather than going into the waiter's tray and going palm up and palm down. By having your strings face to the left as a right-hander prior to contact, and then as you get to the ball, feel like you're still going to lead with the edge. As you hit the ball, you're starting to naturally pronate, and you're loose enough that the pronation continues even after you hit the ball. Now, some players say, Ryan, why does it matter that after you hit the ball, the strings are facing to the right? Because the ball's already gone. It doesn't even know. And Ryan, you just said that it doesn't even know that that's occurring. And you are right. Well, why does a golfer, let me draw a golfer here. Why does a golfer holding a club about to hit a golf ball, that's my golfer ready to swing, why when he or she pulls their club back, why don't they just stop when they get to the golf ball? Why do they continue? It's a follow through. A body motion tends to stay in motion. It wants to keep going, and they swing, and the golfer takes the club back, and then they go through contact all the way back over again. It's the exact same thing. When you begin rotating the racket, it just keeps rotating. And we can actually see, this is actually a really cool view. This reminds me of John Isner. When you look at Isner, it's the same as Taylor Fritz. Not only has his racket gone from 0 degrees to just after contact 90, that's the key there. After contact, they get to 90 because at contact, he still has his right edge in front compared to the left. That's what gets the strings to face off to the left. And then the 90 degrees happens after contact. 180 happens way after contact. He probably gets to 230. It's amazing how much pronation he has, and it's very similar to John Isner. And here's actually a great view of that. Both of them have their strings facing off to the left. Here's Isner rotating the racket to contact. Here's Fritz rotating the racket to contact. Check out, and oh, by the way, this video is courtesy of Essential Tennis. Thank you so much, Ian, for letting me use this video. Make sure you subscribe to Essential Tennis. I have put their link in the description below. Watch the continuation of John Isner. Here, his racket is facing directly to the right, which was, 180 degrees, different than what we saw prior. But watch how the racket continues rotating. Holy smokes, unreal. I can tell you this, I can't do this. I'm not even close to being able to pronate this much. And how flexible. Look how his arm is all contorted. It's a totally natural movement. This is actually how you keep your arm from hurting. You would think that this would actually hurt them, but both of them have their strings facing up to the right. Absolutely incredible display of pronation. One last thing I'll show you is the serve that Isner hits here is a down the tee serve. First serve, blasting it for an ace, where Taylor Fritz is hitting an out wide serve, proving that you're going to pronate no matter where you're hitting and no matter what serve you're hitting. And if you're looking for people in your local area to play against, practice with, and if you're looking for a coach who's close to you, use my link in the description, playyourcourt.com/2minutetennis. And when you use my link to sign up, you get 50% off when you join. So go out and work on your serve pronation. And when you do, there's no doubt you're going to gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2minutetennis.net. You got this.